Jonathan Lee Riches investigates. I am covering the Moscow, Idaho Bryan Kohberger case. If Bryan Kohberger gets convicted, what do you think his last meal will be if he gets that DP? And you know what the DP stands for. What do you think Bryan Kohberger's last meal? When people are on death row and they're about to be executed for their crimes, they get an opportunity, the inmates, to pick their last meal. What do you think it would be with Kohberger? Do you think it would be, because it's reported he is a vegan, do you think he'll get a vegan meal as his last meal? Or do you think he'll get, like what I'm eating, a pork sandwich, a delicious pork sandwich? Or you think he'll get some yummy desserts, sweets? You think he'll get some chicken, fries, potatoes? Now, I have a list here. I want to share something with you, some new insight about other death row inmates and what they got during their last meal. And I have a list here, like John Wayne Gacy. John Wayne Gacy, he was put to death in Illinois by lethal injection at the age of 52. He was sentenced to death for RAPE and 33 counts of MURDER. For his last meal, Gacy requested 12 fried shrimp, a bucket of original recipe KFC, French fries, and a pound of strawberries. Prior to being convicted, Gacy managed 3 KFC restaurants. So he worked at KFC and he asked for KFC as his last meal. Let's talk about Timothy McVeigh. Y'all heard of Timothy McVeigh, right? Timothy McVeigh, the American terrorist behind the Oklahoma City bombings, was put to death in Indiana by lethal injection at the age of 33. He was sentenced to DEA-TH for 160 counts of murder. For his last meal, McVeigh requested 2 pints of mint chocolate chip ice cream. Let's talk about some other famous people. Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy, I wonder what Ted Bundy had as his last meal. Ted Bundy, one of the most notorious serial killers in American history. He was put to death in Florida by the electric chair at age 43. He was sentenced to DEA-TH for rape, prison escape, and more than 35 counts of murder. Bundy declined a special meal, so he was given the traditional last meal: steak cooked medium rare, eggs over easy, hash browns, toast with butter and jelly, milk and juice. Interesting. There was even a female that was sentenced to death in Virginia, Teresa Lewis. She was put to death in Virginia by lethal injection at the age of 41. She was sentenced to death for murder, conspiracy, and robbery. For her last meal, Lewis requested fried chicken, peas with butter, apple pie, and a Dr. Pepper. Interesting, right? There is lists of people. How about Henry Hargreaves? Henry Hargreaves. I never even heard of this Henry Hargreaves guy. He was a bartender working at an establishment where when people ordered food at drink in a bar, he was like a bartender. He got collard greens, fresh fish, apples, apple cider. What would this guy want to get apple cider for? But that's interesting, right? So the question is, what do you think Bryan Kohberger will get as his last meal? I'm assuming he will be convicted for his crimes, right? In Idaho, just did the firing squad. So imagine Bryan Kohberger getting a vegan meal and then going in front of the firing squad if lethal injection or the chemicals is not available. I'm assuming Bryan Kohberger is going to get the DP. So the question is, what will his last meal be? Also, some states have last meal reform and only let inmates get a certain amount of things, but not a lot. There was one inmate, and I can't name the name offhand, but he just ordered, he said, I want 10 pounds of fish and 100 eggs and 100 pints of ice cream, and they were like, that's ridiculous. So the state legislature created a limit to what inmates can get, Should Bryan Kohberger be able to fill his belly up with yummy food before he's sentenced to DEA-TH, before they execute him, if he gets convicted of his crimes? Or do you think Bryan Kohberger will not get a last meal? Do you think he'll actually get off and then he can go out in society like I am here right here and eat all the meals he wants freely? Do you think that will happen? That's the question. Subscribe to my channel, hit the notification button. Eating good? This reminded me of Bryan Kohberger's last meal. It's covering the Bryan Kohberger case, right? This is barbecue and fries. Good stuff. We'll talk soon. Stay hungry, my friends.